Hey, what up, YouTube? Welcome back to a new video with Rams Fan YT. Yes, the stream was up earlier and there was a fire alarm and all sorts of technical issues. So we are now restarting the stream from scratch. I thought it would be better for those who are coming back and watching it again than watching, admittedly, a very ropey and out of practice YouTuber making a video. If you want to know why I've not been recording for so much, wait until the end of the video. So those who just want to watch the predictions don't have to go through a load of rambling. I'm going to start off pretty simply with the EFL Trophy, Group A, with Stockport County versus Tranmere Rovers. Both of these teams have already started and qualified for the next round of this competition. So a bit of a nothing game. Stockport County 2-0 continue that amazing run of form that they are on at the moment. They seem to be doing very well in that league, in League One. Salford City versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. From one extreme to the other, Salford City aren't really doing that well. They're bottom of their group. Wolves haven't done much better either. Neither of these can qualify, on the other hand. I think Salford will win this one. We're going to need something to get a bit of momentum going. 3-0 for Salford here. Port Vale versus Wrexham, which is the other one going on in this for both the teams which are qualified. I think Port Vale will want to get the bit of an upset against Wrexham here because Wrexham are doing quite well in League One. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here and for Port Vale to win on penalties. Morecambe versus Carlisle United, the two teams currently occupying the relegation zones of League Two. However, Morecambe have done so far quite well in the EFL Trophy, all things considering, having already sealed their place. Carlisle are already eliminated because of the way the results will go. But I think Carlisle will want to go out with their heads held high. 2-0 for the Cumbrian outfit. Wigan Athletic versus Nottingham Forest under 21s, which is a bit more of an interesting mix-up in the overall things, because whoever gets the points in this one will most likely qualify. Actually, they will qualify because they're on the same points. So coming into it, a draw is not really good enough for anyone because it will go to a penalty shootout and no one wants to go for penalties. I know Wigan to win this one at 1-0. And yeah, Barrow versus Aston Villa. Barrow have been woeful in this competition so far, having conceded 6 goals over the 2 games, and Aston Villa absolutely skyrocketing in this league thing. This is their top of this. They're doing just as well as their first team at the moment by the looks of it. Barrow probably will want to rest a few players in this game. 6-0. I'm going to go with Aston Villa under 21s. I know, big result, but Barrow have been shoddy this competition. Bolton Wanderers versus Fleetwood is a bit more of an interesting one because if Fleetwood even get a point, get the bonus point here during the penalty shootout, then they'll be able to qualify. However, I do think Bolton Wanderers, they're going to need a result. Everett is under pressure. 3-1 for Bolton here. Harrogate Town versus Blackpool. Another team not performing admirably well in League One is Blackpool at the moment. However, in this competition, they are currently in second. They have already qualified, therefore, but I do think with this that they'll just want to get that top spot so they get the seeding in the next round at home, because where they play is an incredible home ground. They have incredibly home fan base support. So if they get a good fixture in the next round, then it'll drag quite a crowd in. So I'm going to go in with Blackpool to win this one. Harrogate can actually qualify, but they need to win it basically, and I don't think they're going to. 4-0 for Blackpool here. Huddersfield Town versus Manchester United's under 21s. This is Huddersfield have to win this to get qualification. If they even draw it, Manchester United under 21s are through. So I think Manchester United under 21s will be going for a draw here, 1-1 draw. I'm going to go with, and I'm going to go with the under 21s to win on penalties. Chesterfield versus Grimsby Town. Chesterfield doing really well in this competition at the top of it. They have pretty much qualified. Actually, I think because Lincoln and Man City's and 21s playing each other, Chesterfield are guaranteed qualification. So a bit of a nothing game because Grimsby do need to win this one, to be fair, to qualify. But it is unlikely that they will qualify, I am reckoning. I'm going to go with Chesterfield to win this one, 2-1 to the Spireites. They're going to need to want to get some good form going. Lincoln City versus Manchester City is under 21s. Both on 3 points, have both scored 2 goals, have both conceded 2 goals in this competition so far. It's going to be a real tight game at Sincil Bank. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here, which makes the on-edgeness even more. But I'm going to go Lincoln City to win on penalties here. I think they're going to get that extra point, and therefore they're going to qualify for the next round, which will be good because we don't want to see the under-21s do well. It just weakens the competition. On to Walsall versus Shrewsbury Town. We're now into the southern groups. Walsall have already qualified. Shrewsbury Town are already out. Shrewsbury are having a torrid season in League One at the moment. So I think they will want to get some points to prove, really, against the League Two outfit. Albeit Walsall are doing very well this season in League Two. So I think they're going to cancel each other out. 0-0 here. And it's going to go to penalties and Walsall to gain the point on penalties. Wycombe Wanderers versus Crawley Town. Either team who wins this will get qualification. If it's a draw and a point goes to Crawley, then Brighton Hove Albion's under 21s will go through. So a bit of an interesting one going on here. I do think Wycombe, who are doing really, really well in League One at the moment, will go through. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win for the Chairboys here. On to the next one, Southern Group C. We've got Charlton Athletic versus Bromley. Bromley, if they get all 3 points, if they win, they will qualify. If not, they are out. Charlton Athletic haven't got anything to play for. They are already qualified no matter what happens in tonight's game. So I think Bromley will probably win this one. Charlton will probably rest a few players. 2-1 to Bromley, which will mean that both of the promoted teams from the National League last season will go through to the next round. On to the next one is a very interesting occasion of Stevenage versus Gillingham. Now, Gillingham, if they win it by 2-goal margin, will qualify for the next round. If not, Stevenage will make it, no matter what else the result. So Stevenage basically just need to keep it below the 2 goals. And I think they'll do that. I think it's going to be 1-0 for Stevenage here. And they are going to qualify to the next round. It won't matter because they can't get top because Peterborough have had such a stunning performance in the Cup, the trophy. So yeah, but Stevenage will go through. Milton Keynes Dons versus Leyton Orient. Either of these teams can still qualify as long as they get a win. So it's a must-win game for either of these teams. But I do think MK Dons will win this one. 2-1 for MK here. Yeah. Colchester United versus Arsenal's under 21s. This, in a sense, is a must-not-lose game for both of these teams. If they draw, then it's a bit better. And I think it will be a draw. I think it will be a 2-2 draw here, which will then give the point, and I'm going to go with a added point for the penalties to Arsenal's under 21s. So that'll put Arsenal's under 21s on 6, Colchester on 5, MK Dons on 5. However, because of goal difference, I think that calculates as Colchester qualifying, which I completely neglected when making these predictions. That's quite an interesting one. Okay, yeah. So yeah, and now on to Northampton Town versus Burton Albion. Really interesting. Both of these currently occupy qualification. However, because all 4 teams are playing in this group, Burton Albion can quite easily drop out. So Burton Albion need to win this one. And I don't think they're going to. I'm going to go 0-0 here. And Northampton Town to win on the penalty shootout, that extra point, which will mean, depending on what the Notts County versus Leicester City's under 21s game, which we're predicting now, the result will hinge on that. And to be honest, I'm seeing Notts County at the moment. They're really high flying in League Two. They're doing really well. They're one of 3 teams in the top 4 tiers of English football to have not lost away from home. I think it's something like that. So I'm going to go Notts County to win 4-1 in this particular occasion. I don't think Leicester Season 21 is going to be the greatest outfit here. And then the final one of the EFL Trophy is Reading versus Newport County. It's basically whoever gets the extra point here or wins it is going to go through. I think Reading slightly better here. 3-1 to the Royals. Yeah. Okay, just to quickly mention about the National League Cup. If there is a large sea of demand for the channel to want to see the National Cup, I can be tempted to predict it. However, as was said during the interrupted last stream, people wanted to boycott it. I'm completely fine with that as well. I don't think it's a real good competition regardless. Bit of a boring one, in my opinion. Like, it's not even got the National League North and South in it. They just chucked a load of under 21s teams in the Premier League and basically the FA Trophy. So yeah, we're going to go on to the National League North. Buxton, who are doing absolutely phenomenally well this season, I must say. And it's obviously making my Derbyshire heart very, very proud to see Buxton doing so well. They are against Brackley Town, which is maybe at the start of the season, people would have thought Buxton 12 would have been reasonable and Brackley 3rd also predictable. So seeing these two the other way around is a bit odd. I'm going to go with a close game though, because Brackley have developed a little bit of form, having in the last 4 games not lost. Buxton, again, haven't lost in ages, so I think they will cancel each other out. I'm going to go a 0-0 draw here. Bit of a cagey affair at Silverlands. Darlington versus Peterborough Sports. Darlington and Peterborough Sports, well, at the moment, they're not really concerned too much about safety, but they're just about teetering on the edge of it, just above that sort of pack, which is probably, I'd say, Radcliffe, Warrington, Oxford are currently the 3 at the moment, which are real danger, and then they're just above that. But even so, certain points going certain ways could end up plunging either of them into a relegation picture. So Darlington at home, I think, will win this one. 1-0 to Darlow. Yeah. Kidderminster Harriers versus South Shields. Big game for anyone going to Kiddie down at the Agborough. South Shields will be probably wanting a point. They've been really mixed this season and they've only picked up 1 draw. But they've had 7 wins and 8 losses. So they don't draw a lot. But I do think this one will be a draw, actually. I'm going 0-0 here, which is an interesting shout. Marine versus Curzon Ashton. Curzon Ashton are in the playoffs at the moment, which I was quite surprised with how well they started. Marine, I'm a little bit disappointed with in 22nd. They'll probably want to get some points on the board to try and push themselves up. At home, good chance to gain some. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. They will need to do better, but a 1-1 draw against a top 7 team is not a disgrace at all. On to the National League South, we've got Boreham Wood versus Truro City. I think Boreham Wood are actually doing worse this season than Truro. Truro are really, really doing quite well, actually. They're currently 2nd in the league. A win here will put them top of the league if Weston-super-Mare lose. Boreham Wood, however, isn't an easy game. It's certainly not. They got National League pedigree in 10th, and they will want to try and get out this league as well. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw. I am going to say we're going to cancel each other out here. Bit of a cagey game. Slough Town versus Dorking Wanderers. Slough are literally 3 points outside the playoffs, but they've got a really good goal difference. They've got a +10 goal difference here with some solid defence and a good attack. They could be a good outfit this season. Dorking Wanderers, though, they are also on fire. They have scored 32 goals, which is the most of any team this season. So you could pretty much disqualify a 0-0 draw here going on. I do think, however, Slough at home will win this one 2-1 to the Rebels here, which will push them back into the playoffs. Torquay United versus Maidstone United. Torquay in 6th. Maidstone having a bit of a rotter of a season in 16th. However, they have collected a bit of form of late. It was just because of a really slow start to the season. I do think Maidstone could get a win here. 2-0 for Maidstone. I think because of the run of form they are on, they are definitely something not to be slept on at the moment. And they are pushing themselves back up. Because that win would put them in 10th, which would then suddenly say, oh, wait, they are in a playoff hunt. So, yeah. On to League One for the weekend's fixtures. And the first one we've got is Exeter City versus Lincoln City. Lincoln are in the playoffs. They were my dark horses at the start of the season, and they have first proven to be so far. Well, there's been a lot of dark horses, to be fair. Stockport, Mansfield, and Wickham as well. Whereas Exeter, mid-table, about where people would probably expect them to be, roughly 11th place. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. I think Exeter's a difficult place to go, but I do think Lincoln will want to try and get some points over this international break because, as they always say, points on the board is better than games in hand. So, yeah, I would agree. At a point there, they would probably say, yeah, solid outing. Blackpool versus Northampton Town. Blackpool have been doing really poorly this season. They had a good upturn in form with when Steve Bruce first came on, with that new managerial bounce, but now they've gone back to slumping. Northampton Town have been really mixed of late, and to be honest, I think that mixed form is representative of where they are in the table, 17th. I think they'll win this one, though. 2-1 to the Cobblers to continue that all sorts of results everywhere sort of thing which is going on at Northampton at the moment. Bristol Rovers versus Crawley Town. Bristol Rovers in 16th, probably about where people will expect to see Bristol Rovers. Crawley Town in 21st. Bit of a difficult thing to adjust to this league. And I don't think Bristol Rovers is going to reap any joy for them. 1-0 to Bristol Rovers. They are also at home, so that does certainly provide an advantage. Cambridge United versus Barnsley. Well, Cambridge United in the last game got absolutely smacked to pieces by Peterborough United, their local rivals. And so certainly the sting of that will be affecting them. Do I think Cambridge will bounce back here? Barnsley is a very difficult game to bounce back from anything, and I think they'll still be limping a bit sore. I'm going to go with Barnsley to win this one really comfortably. 4-0 to the Tykes. I'm sorry, Cambridge. It's just at the moment you're really probably going to have quite a long season. Stockport County versus Wrexham. Really exciting game, this one, actually. I think this is probably one of the games to look out for this weekend, along with the top table clash in National League. Wrexham can go into the automatics if they get a win here. Stockport County, though, will definitely not be wanting that to happen, as they will have themselves an eye on cementing their place in the playoffs as they're currently in at the moment. I think Stockport have had some really good days so far, and I'm going to say they're going to continue this. I just want to mention their last few fixtures that they've had have been really good. If you look at the last game, I believe it was, they won 5-0 against Bolton You go before that, they lost 5 against Wickham. They then beat, we're going to ignore the FA Cup one. They then beat Reading 4-1. So they don't do quiet games of late, it seems. So I actually don't think this would even be that surprising. The score 5-0 to Stockport County here. I think it certainly wouldn't go amiss from their current run of form of scoring loads absolutely all over the shop, which would put them in a really healthy goal difference as well. So yeah, I could see that well and truly happening. On to League 2, Accrington Stanley versus Swindon Town. Both of these teams sort of struggling this season, and I think we're going to see a bit of poor football going on. I'm not going to lie. I think Swindon will be wanting the points just to get that bit of breathing space because they are currently only 1 point above relegation zone. I think there'll be goals all over the shop. 4-3 Swindon Town. It's going to be an absolute mess, but it'll be a good win for Swindon. I think they'll need it. Barrow versus AFC Wimbledon. Yeah, a bit of a mid-table clash at the moment, although Barrow can go into the playoffs with a win here. AFC Wimbledon have had some really interesting turn of form of late. I think they will cancel each other out here. A 0-0 draw, which I don't think will really please Barrow at home, but it is what it is. Bromley versus Carlisle United. Obviously, as I was just mentioning earlier in this video, Carlisle are stuck in relegation zone. However, they are on 11 points. It's not totally stuck and adrift at the moment. They only are 1 point off. A bit of a bad goal difference, though they do need a bit of swing in that favour. Bromley started the season all right. They've sort of been floating around. They're now 19th, which is still no disgrace for a team that probably didn't expect to be promoted to League 2 last season. So yeah, I'm going to say a 0-0 draw here, which doesn't do Carlisle a world of good, but I don't think it really does Bromley the world of good either. So yeah, Colchester United versus Bradford City. Colchester will be wanting to get a win. They have not had a win in ages, and certainly to try and get a bit of breathing space in just to get away from that relegation zone. Again, only 2 points above that relegation zone. It is not a good place to be. Bradford City are in 10th, 2 points off the playoffs. They'll be probably coming into this expecting an easy 3 points. So am I going to say it's going to be an upset here? I don't think it'll be a win, but they've had a lot of draws of late Colchester. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw here. I think Bradford will be coming, just treating the game a bit too easy. It does happen. Crewe Alexandra versus Notts County. This is more interesting. Notts County in third on 27 points. Walsall on second on 27 points. Doncaster Rovers on fourth on 27 points. All three of these absolutely great. But Crewe as well, their opponents on 25. So if Crewe win here, they can get into the automatic positions. Notts County win here, they can get top of the league. It's a very, very, very exciting game. The game to probably watch out for in League 2 this weekend, I would say. Do I think it will be an amazing game? No. It never is when two absolute juggernauts go to each other. I'm going with 1-0 to Crewe. They've had some really good form of late. And that Notts County away record will actually be shattered. I think Crewe is such a hard place to go at Gretzky Road. So yeah, and that'll push them into... that could potentially push them into second, depending on how the results go this weekend. Doncaster Rovers versus Salford City. Now, Doncaster Rovers are another one of them teams who will be looking of an eye on automatics. And they'll probably think that Salford City should be a place for be getting some points. However, Salford are always one of them teams that just pull results out. And to be fair, if they get a win here, they could push up into probably around about 9th in the table, which will suddenly make them look not too distant from playoff chasing packs themselves. I'm going to go with Salford City to win this one 3-0, which may come as a bit of a shock to you guys watching, but I do think Salford do have an upset in their hands every now and again. Harrogate Town versus Chesterfield. Now, Chesterfield in ninth, they've had some really good form this season, but their last game was a real rotter. And to recover from that will be quite difficult. And against Harrogate Town, Harrogate will be wanting to get some points on the board, just again to keep themselves clear up from away relegation zone. 3-1 for the Sulphurites here. I'm sorry, I want Chesterfield to win, I really do, but I think you got to think about it. That crushing loss last week and was an absolute fatality, probably to any good feeling at the club, and they've got to gather themselves up quick. Milton Keynes Dons versus Cheltenham Town. Yeah, MK Dons here are sixth. They're doing really well. They've won the last four in the league, that is. Again, a win here today could push them to basically on the cusp of the automatic promotion zone. Cheltenham have probably had quite a disappointing season for their expectations. I do think, though, Cheltenham will get a point here. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. Quite an exciting game. A proper ding-dong-do. Morecambe versus Port Vale. Port Vale, top of the league. But they did lose their last game. Let us not forget that Port Vale lost their last game. So yes, Darren Moore did really well at the start of the season. They've pushed themselves in first, and they deserve to be in first because Darren Moore has had some absolute excellent performances. And it was only by the narrowest of margins they lost, and it was against Gillingham. And I must say, that is not an easy game to win. But Gillingham hadn't won anything for ages since, well, for a fair whack anyway. So again, it did come as a bit of an upset. Morecambe, very similar. They got a win in their last game, so they're buoyed on a bit by that. And I reckon at home, is it still called the Mizuno Mobile Stadium or Globe Arena, whatever it's called? I think they'll win this one. A slender 1-0 win for Morecambe. I'm going to go with the upset because they're going to want to try and stay up this season as well, which will really spice up the League Two relegation picture, actually. Looking at it already, it's looking a lot more spicy than it has done in previous seasons. Newport County versus Grimsby Town. Newport County, solid mid-table, 15th. Couldn't really say anything else about that. Grimsby Town have been probably one of my shocks of the season here in 7th. I never really see Grimsby in League 2 as being one of them teams that be that strong. But they are certainly up there and have made themselves a bit of a presence. I'm going with a 1-1 draw here at Newport. Grimsby have tend to make themselves at home a bit of a fortress, but away, I'm not as convinced. They haven't yet drawn a game, so that will be probably the first draw of the season for them. On to the National League, we've got Altrincham versus Southend United. Very, very interesting, this one. With Alty being in 10th, but Southend having not the greatest of seasons for their standards in 15th. I don't think it will be an easy game for Southend, and they'll probably be wanting points, but I think Altrincham will win this one. 2-0 to Alty here. Braintree Town versus AFC Fylde. A bit of a relegation picture. None of them are actually in the relegation zone as we speak, but they are. Fylde are 2 points above. Braintree are 2 goals in terms of goal difference above. So yes, it's a big game for Braintree here, and at home, I think they will just about win it. It's already an early doors game that is billed to be quite exciting. 2-1 to Braintree here. I'm really looking forward to this game. Dagenham and Redbridge versus Barnet. Dagenham and Redbridge 12th, which is quite a solid. Oh, let me just get my charger. Apologies for this. Dagenham and Redbridge 12th. I believe they started the season quite well, although I could be wrong about that. Whereas at Barnet, as you would probably predict, in third, in quite a strong position coming into this. But Dagenham and Redbridge, I think there's a little bit of a local rivalry there. There's certainly something, they're both based in London. And I think at home, Downham Redbridge will win this one 1-0. Another upset to Barnet, which is not what they'll be wanting to hear, considering they're going to want to try and get a promotion push this season. Ebbsfleet United versus Solihull Moors. Solihull Moors in 9th. They are 3 points off getting into the playoffs, although their goal difference certainly needs an improvement. Meanwhile, Ebbsfleet United absolutely rooted at the bottom of the table. I can't see anything else beyond a 2-1 win for Solihull Moors here. I think Solihull will just win this one. Ebbsfleet have not been great this season. Gateshead versus Aldershot Town. Yeah, Gateshead in 4th, so one of them teams. And I heard recently that Gateshead are actually getting their stuff sorted together now. They're actually trying to get their stadium sold to a private company so they can get a 10-year lease, which will enable them to get promoted, which is, of course, great news for the Heed. Whereas Aldershot have been a bit more disappointing than they were last season. Last season, they were just on the edge of on the edge of being in the playoffs. They are now 17th this season. I actually went to go and see this precise equivalent of this game of the sort of home game at Gateshead against Aldershot last season, and it was an absolute stinker from Gateshead. They got a red card for their goalie. It was a bit of a poor game for both sides. I do think it'll be a fairly similar occasion. Aldershot will just be wanting to make sure they don't get relegated. 1-0 to Shotts here. Hartlepool United versus Eastleigh. 16th base at Hartlepool, although that's a bit deceptive because the mid-table bunch at the moment is all sort of anything from pretty much 8th down to probably around about 16th. It doesn't take much for that table to hold, say it'll change at the moment. And just because Hartlepool at the bottom of that doesn't necessarily represent where they actually are. Whereas you look at Eastleigh, they're also in that bunch in 11th there. So I can say it can go really either way. And I think Hartlepool slightly better form than Eastleigh as of the moment of recording. So I think Hartlepool will win this one 3-1 at the Suits Direct Stadium. Oldham Athletic versus Tamworth. Tamworth doing solid this season, 14th, about where you would probably expect if you were a Tamworth fan. Oldham, 5th, not woeful. They are in the playoff pictures, so of course that is something that would be good for the Greater Manchester-based club. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here. I think Tamworth are renowned last season for their good defence. This season is not as good, but it's still a sort of, they're still managing to grind out points, which is what is important. Sutton United versus Maidenhead United. Maidenhead United in 21st, and so they're probably they're not far from getting out the relegation zone, I must say. Whereas Sutton United, they are probably wanting to do slightly better than they are at the moment in 13th, especially considering they were in League 2 last season. I would say they'd be probably expecting to push towards the playoffs. I'm going to go with Sutton United to win this one. I think it's fairly obvious. 3-0 to the London-based club, rather, not to the Maidenhead club. Wealdstone versus Rochdale. Now, Rochdale, of course, are doing quite well in 6th, 30 points in total accumulated this season. That's not too bad at this current stage. Whereas Wealdstone, 15 points accumulated, so half the total of points. But I think Wealdstone want the points a bit more at this current stage because I think they don't want to necessarily get prolonged into a relegation battle. I'm going to go 3-2 to Wealdstone, a really battling performance. Woking versus Boston United. Boston in 23rd have picked up 2 points in the last 2 games. Whereas Woking have also had quite some turbulent time. They're in 19th. This game could go either way, realistically. Both of them have not impressed me as of late. So I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw, the most boring game, and both teams will not really be bothered and will take the point. Yeovil Town versus FC Halifax Town. This is an interesting one because Yeovil is 7th, Halifax are 8th. So So there's 2 points basically separating the two teams. So whoever wins this has really solidified their place in the playoffs. So it's a good fixture, this one. I think Yeovil at home will win this one, though. 1-0 to Yeovil, because it's a long trip for the Halifax fans to make. Top of the table clash then. We got York City on 38 points, Forest Green Rovers on 37. It's a real clash of the Titans in the National League here. Really looking forward to this. It's on TV as well. It's the later kickoff. I think Forest Green Rovers at home do possess the slight edge here, but they have both had about equal form as of late. Really hard to tell. I'm going to go with Forest Green Rovers to win this one. 2-1 for Forest Green, which will put them top of the league. And York will lose for only the second time this season. I know it's been absolutely crazy for both of these teams. On to the FA Trophy, which is a bit of an interesting competition. Thank you, Herbs, or something like that, for the fire. Yeah, we are back. So yeah, FA Trophy. That is a very interesting competition. It's sort of a bit like the EFL Trophy sort of things for a few bits down, just without the under-21s. It's basically teams from tier 5 to tier 8 to take part in. It's just a good old competition. So we've got Alfreton. This is the round where the National League North-South teams enter. So we've got Alfreton Town versus Needham Market. I've got to book my Derbyshire lads Alfreton here. 2-0 win for them. I think this will be a good chance there at home. Needham Market got a bit of a long way to come, based in Suffolk. And just think that Alfreton have done a decent job this season and Needham Market haven't. Aveley versus Hemel Hempstead Town. Both teams normally in the National League South. Aveley haven't been great this season, we must admit that. I think Hemel Hempstead will win this one at 1-0. Bamber Bridge versus Farsley Celtic. Obviously, we'll be wanting a bit of an upset, Bamber Bridge at home, but I do think Farsley Celtic will win this one 3-0. Pretty simple win for the Celtic here. Bath City versus Chertsey Town. This could be a real upset if Chertsey win this one, but I don't think they will. I think Bath at Twerton, something different. I'm going to go 0-0 and Bath to win on penalties. Could go anyway. Boreham Wood versus Felixstowe and Walton United. Yeah, Boreham Wood will probably be wanting a bit of a cheeky cup run. They've not done amazingly well at the start of the season, but against Felixstowe, they'll definitely be coming into the upset. Boreham Wood are one of the biggest teams in the southern half of this competition at this current stage. 0-0 draw. I do think Boreham Wood will win on penalties, though. Chesham United versus Chippenham Town. Yeah, National League South occasion here. I'm going to go Chesham United to win this one. 3-1 for the, I believe, Hertfordshire-based outfit. Do correct me wrong if Chesham is not. It's somewhere down in the home counties. Not too familiar that area. Chichester City versus Worthing. Along the south coast. They're not far from each other at all, these two teams based in Sussex. And I do think Worthing will win this one. They are in the higher league and they are doing an all right job. 2-1 to Worthing here. Chorley versus Marine. In the Northwest, both in the National League North. I think at home with Chorley. Chorley, I don't know. I think they aren't having the greatest season that I've seen thus far this season, which is, of course, maybe a little concern, considering Chorley do normally do a bit better. Sorry, what am I talking about? Chorley are top of the league. This is the reason why I needed tech for the last however long, because Chorley turned around and got top of the league. Marine, that was who I was talking about. Marine were meant to help the people I was saying who are not doing as well as I expected, because Marine are a team who were promoted, had like back-to-back promotions, had the momentum. Probably came a bit too early, but I do think in this, I think surely may want to rest players. I think they want to ensure that they can get that promotion. 3-1 to Marine here, which is always great to see. Curzon Ashton versus Macclesfield. Now, arguably, even though Curzon Ashton are in a higher league, I would say that Macclesfield are the bigger club of the two, and maybe even more likely to be favourites. And I do think Macclesfield will win this one. They will bring a heck of a lot of away from it. Depending on how much allocation we get, they could even get over 1,000 Macclesfield fans coming to this game. So I do think Macclesfield will win this one 2-0, which will be great for the Northern Premier League, a real advert for that league. But yeah, Darlington versus Buxton. As I say, Buxton will probably be more focused on the league. Darlington don't have much to play for. If you just looked early in this video, both of them teams, you can tell where they are. I think Darlington will win this one. A long trip for Buxton to go up there. 2-1 for Darlington. I think it'll be... Buxton will probably want to more focus on trying to get that promotion if they are still in that playoff picture. Dorking Wanderers versus Eastbourne United. I think this will be a close game, quite an exciting one as well. I think Dorking will not bat away from having a cup, whereas Eastbourne also will probably be slightly better in the league at the moment, but there's only 2 points which separate these. Could be an early forerunner to what an playoff final maybe will look like. Not saying anything. I'm going to go with Dorking to win this one. 4-3 for Dorking here. We have a very exciting game no matter what. And now we're on to a North London derby. No, not Tottenham versus Arsenal. It's Enfield Town versus Hornchurch. Yes, quite an interesting one, this one. Both of these teams are in the bottom half of the National League South. Hornchurch in 17th, Enfield at the bottom of the table. I can't see beyond Hornchurch winning this one. Enfield aren't doing great at the moment. 2-1 to the Urchins here. To continue, that'll be some great form. I don't really look at the FA Trophy results, but I think if I'm right, which I might not necessarily be, they may have won it last season. Oh no, Gateshead won it last season, but they I believe did quite well. If I'm right, I could have completely made this up. So apologies if I did make this up. Yeah, I completely made that up. They did not do well last season. Was it the season before? I'm really digressing at this moment, aren't I? There was one season they did really well in this competition. Yeah, 2020-21 was the season that Hornchurch won it. So relatively recent history. I wasn't entirely making it up then. They were doing decent in the past, but obviously now not as well. Gainsborough Trinity versus Chester. This is an interesting one, certainly. National League north of Chester, Northern Premier League with Gainsborough. Gainsborough Trinity and Chester, both teams with massive pedigree and past. I think Chester will win this one 2-0. I think they're the higher of a rated of two clubs, which is obviously not an indication. You can get upsets, but I do think Chester just will marginally win this one. Gosport Borough versus Tonbridge Angels. Yeah, I think Gosport might win this one. I don't necessarily keep across the Southern League, but I don't think Gosport Borough are actually in the worst position in the Southern League at the moment. I could be completely wrong about that. As I said, I don't follow the Southern League, which is a bit of an issue when you're trying to do a video about the this league. They're 16th, so I was absolutely waffling. There you go. You heard it here first. No, absolutely nothing about Tier 7, unless it's the Northern Premier League. There's no need for me to know about that, but I do think Gosport come into here with a bit of an upset, fire in their bellies. Tonbridge aren't the biggest club, but it will be upset nevertheless. 2-0 for Gosport here. Hashtag United, flipping it, versus Brackley Town. Put your hands up if you've forgotten that hashtag United was still actually kicking around. They've seemed to have gone quiet of late. I think hashtag United will want a bit of an upset for this one. I'm going to go with 0-0 draw and Brackley Town to win on penalties here. Hereford versus Brentwood Town. At Edgar Street. Brentwood will probably want a bit of an upset. I'm going to go with another 0-0 draw and Hereford to win on penalties. Right, Horsham versus Maidstone United. Horsham have so far done really well in terms of the FA Cup. And I don't think that, in the league they can be doing... They're not doing as well in the league, but then again, they do have a lot of games in hand. They've got a potential of 9 points, and if you get that 9 points, you're on 26, and they could be flown straight up into the playoff positions in the Isthmian League. So it is one of them things that they had a good cup run at the beginning of the season. And I think they're wanting another cheeky cup run here. I don't think against Maidstone is a difficult club, but I think because Maidstone are known for their cup exploits as well in the FA Cup. But I'm going to go with Horsham to win this one 2-0. Another cheeky cup run for Horsham here. Kidderminster Harriers versus Halesowen Town. These two clubs are really close to each other, actually, in proximity. It's only about a 20-minute drive, I would say. I reckon Halesowen bring a fair few fans here. Kidderminster Harriers are by far the bigger club, though. I'm going to go 3-0 to Harriers. I'm sorry, I can't see an upset happening here. I think Kidderminster Harriers will want to make sure of that. Leamington versus Kings Lynn Town. National League North. I think Kings Lynn will edge this one 3-0 here. I think it's not even an edging. I think it's quite comfortable for Kings Lynn. Leamington will probably just be more focused on survival, making sure that they're building that firm foundations for going forward. Oxford City versus Sporting Cowser. Really interested to know what goes on in this game, because I think Sporting Cowser could theoretically get something from it, because Oxford City are not doing great as we speak in the National League North. But at the end of the day, I think it will be a 0-0 draw. Oxford City to win on penalties. Not the most convincing performances, I must say. We have a National League North versus a National League South team here. Peterborough Sports versus Chelmsford City. Chelmsford City are normally a really strong team. However, this season, not as much. They are 14th, so it is very much doable to get a win here. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw and Chelmsford City to win on penalties, but it'll be a close edged affair. Radcliffe versus Worksop Town. Worksop have everything, I've seen them play before, up at Blythe Spartans, and they were so incredible to a team who were the underdogs. Have some really good, quick, fast, almost sort of Pep Guardiola style of play. So I reckon this will be quite an end-to-end stuff, because Radcliffe will have played Worksop before. They've both been in the Northern Prem for a while, knowing each other inside out. 4-3 for Radcliffe. Be a proper end-to-end game. Real exciting one. Royston Town versus Rushall Olympic. Rushall Olympic will probably not want to be too bothered about this competition. They are trying their desperate best to stay in the National League North. And Royston Town, if we're being honest, at this point, will just want the upset. I think in 18th in the Southern League Central, which does mean that they're probably in danger of a relegation. But I think no one turns down the opportunity to have a cup run if you're the underdog. 2-1 to Royston here. I think that it will be an interesting game, to say the least. Salisbury versus Farnborough. These two teams are not that far apart, and I think Salisbury at home will just about edge this one. 1-0 to Salisbury here. Scunthorpe United versus Warrington Rylands. Huge day out for Warrington Rylands here. on the away trip over to one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in this stage of the competition. And I think they're going to grind out a 0-0 draw. I do think Scunthorpe will win on penalties. Slough Town versus Chatham Town. This happened literally earlier on in the FA Cup this season. Just the home team is different this time. So I think Slough are in danger of an upset here, but I think they have got such good momentum, as we were just alluding to earlier on in this video, that a good cup run could improve the momentum even more. 3-0 to the Rebels here. Southport versus Warrington Town. Again, not too far apart, these two places. And I think Warrington Town will be wanting a bit of a cup run. Both of these teams are probably roughly in the mid-table sort of battle come the end. I know that Southport have got half an eye on the playoffs, and Warrington have got half an eye on relegation. So I think Warrington will probably want it slightly more. I'm going to go 4-0 to Warrington here, because I don't know. I just feel like having a cup run will increase their confidence to want to go into the league, you know. Spennymoor Town versus South Shields. Always a good game, this one. Both of these teams currently in midfield. Not too sure where either of them see them mid-table. Not sure where either side sees themselves going in the future. 5-2 to South Shields here. You know what? I'm going straight up, straight big result at this particular fixture. I think South Shields could do a really good cup run. St Albans City versus Basford United. Basford in the Northern Premier League, or is it the Southern? It's the Northern Premier League, but they're not known for being the strongest outfit in the Northern Premier League. That is, I think, probably fairly fair to say. They are currently 12th mid-table. Nothing much to go on. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw and St Albans to win on penalties. We'll go with that. Stockton Town versus Scarborough Athletic. I'm surprised this game has not been played more often, because both teams have seemed to be going in an upwards direction and have just managed to miss each other pretty much all the time. Stockton here at home, and I think they will be wanting an upset in front of our home fans, especially with a big club like Scarborough in town. 3-1 to Stockton, who are having a cracking season so far in the Northern Premier League, I must say, in 4th place. Obviously not as good as Macclesfield at the moment, who are really high flying, but I do think a good result by Stockton here, a healthy cup run, and definitely something to watch out for. I am going to say Torquay versus Truro. What would Torquay versus Truro most look like? It's quite a tough game to call, this one, because these are both quite high in the National League South. But obviously, the National League South is a different competition. Truro might want to rest their players. Alternatively, they might just want to keep on their good form. I'm going to go with Truro to win this one 1-0. But I think it's going to be a close game. As the longer the game goes on, the more both teams will just want to rest players. Welling United versus Havant and Waterlooville. This would have been a National League South picture not that long ago. Welling have managed to retain their status, whereas Havant and Waterlooville, let's say 8th in the Southern League, ain't looking too pretty. I think Welling will win this one 3-2. Get a good cheeky cup run as well, which is normally what a mid-table team, somebody like Welling, could realistically do with, well, I say mid-table, they have lost their last 4, so they do need to regain some momentum as well, which just adds to the case, to be honest, because to win a game against an old National League South team is certainly something which can push themselves onto an added layer. Weston-super-Mare versus Weymouth. Yeah, Weymouth, as predictable, really, are in 22nd. However, they haven't actually lost a game in absolutely ages. Weston-super-Mare, though, top of the league. Really difficult to tell, because I think Weston-super-Mare will want to try and keep that run going, but also have half an eye on wanting to just make sure that the players are rested. So I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw here, and Weymouth to win on penalties, which will be upsetting for Weston-super-Mare fans, but I think the manager will actually secretly be quite happy to be out of the cup, because it just means that they can rest players, which necessarily, if somebody like Truro go through, they're not going to be able to do. Yate Town versus Hampton and Richmond Borough. 0-0 draw, Hampton Richmond Borough win. I'm sorry, it can be a bit of an upset, but I'm not seeing it as of the moment. I hope you very much enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you are new around here. That will be hugely appreciated. Now for the moment of the reason why I have not been recording for about a month, I want to say now. So the last video was Game Week 7 predictions, which was end of September, early October-ish. Then my laptop charger port broke, which meant that it was in a repair shop. Well, it didn't immediately get to a repair shop. This is the interesting thing, because within a few days, about 3 or 4 days, I didn't really have time to take it to a repair shop in that time. My phone got a virus, which was, as is, very awkward. So I'm in the library sorting out, trying to get a new phone first and foremost. I managed to get that sorted within 2 weeks or so, by which point we are already into mid-October. I then take my laptop into a repair shop without checking the reviews of the repair shop. So within 4 or 5 weeks, it was around about then, I eventually wrestled my laptop back from the people just this weekend just gone by. So it meant that there has been no chance of being able to do a proper video. There has been some shorts, a proper video since that point. Also during that time, and this is a very touchy subject, so if you are going to be affected by it, do please call the Samaritans, check out some help, whatever. A close friend of mine took his own life, which meant that I was also in the position that even if I did have my laptop, I don't think I'd necessarily have been making videos in the first place. So that's just a bit of an update. The videos will probably be a bit more frequent from now on. But yeah, thank you for bearing with me, all you great fans. Martin Ryan, just seen your comment. Workshop have to be fast, as there's always on the run. That is funny, to be fair. Workshop, yeah, they are a fast team in general. Thank you very much for watching, everybody who's tuned into the stream today. Sorry about the fire alarm earlier. Thanks for the 2 likes already. But yeah, see you guys in the next video.